They're always watching you, not with eyes wide in hatred or fists clenched in open conflict, but with stillness, patience, calculation. You walk into a room and someone watches how you stand. You laugh and someone studies how deep it goes. You go quiet, and that silence is studied even harder. The world doesn't attack you directly. It learns you first. Your tone, your posture, your pauses. All of it becomes data. And once they figure you out, they don't need to fight you. They can guide you. Because when someone understands your emotions, your needs, your triggers, they no longer have to overpower you. They can simply play you. That's why Machiavelli carved one law deeper than the rest. Never let them read you. Because once they can, they don't need to break you. They can just steer you. Predictability is vulnerability. When people know how you'll react, when they can guess what scares you, what flatters you, what makes you second-guess yourself, then every move you make becomes a rope they use to tie you up. And you'll be halfway to collapse before you even realize there was a trap. But Machiavelli's advice wasn't to lie or play fake. He wasn't telling you to be someone else. He was warning you to master opacity, to move like a shadow in the open, present but untouchable, visible but unreadable. Mystery isn't just attractive, it's terrifying. The moment someone can't predict you, they stop feeling confident around you. And in power dynamics, that hesitation is your home turf. Let's start with your emotions. Emotion is data. So if you want to protect yourself, stop handing out free access to your data. Every laugh, every sigh, every eye twitch tells a story about what moves you. And if the wrong person picks up on that, you just gave them a roadmap to your internal world. Are you quick to anger? Do you need affirmation? Do you shrink under pressure that information may not be used now? But it will be. It always is, when it matters most. Now that doesn't mean you need to become a robot. That's not the goal. The goal is emotional stillness, not the absence of emotion, but the art of becoming unreadable. You can smile, just not when they expect it. You can frown, but only when it tells them nothing useful. You become the kind of person whose silence makes people nervous because they can't tell if it means calm or danger. And the more someone tries to find your pattern, the more they get frustrated. You're water. You can't be grasped. You don't resist. You just slip through. Now comes one of Machiavelli's sharpest observations. If you want to hold power, become unpatterned. Most people are shockingly predictable. If you insult them, they'll defend. Flatter them, and they soften. Ignore them, and they chase. Machiavelli understood that true power isn't just in strength, it's in confusion. If your next move can't be guessed, then every enemy hesitates before making theirs. And hesitation, that's where you win. When someone expects you to fight, agree. When they expect you to flinch, smile. When they expect you to withdraw, lean in with quiet calm. You don't have to go wild. You just have to break their rhythm. Brains crave patterns. And when they don't get one from you, they stop trying. And when they stop trying, they lose all control. And you gain it. Then there's your image, your personal narrative. If you don't define it, someone else will. People are afraid of what they don't understand, so they'll invent stories about you to make sense of the unknown. And that's fine, as long as they're not stories that can hurt you. So be deliberate. Craft your outer persona with care. Speak less, but say things with precision. Be kind, but never clingy. Be helpful, but never too accessible. Let them wonder. Let them create stories in their head. Because when someone is guessing who you really are, they're not in control, they're off balance. And that's exactly where you want them. Let's take this further. Stop being nice by default. Be strategic instead. Niceness, when it comes from the need to be liked, smells like desperation, and manipulators, real ones, will sense it like blood in the water. Machiavelli didn't say kindness was weakness. He said predictable kindness was. Be kind when it helps you win. Be silent when it lets them reveal themselves. Help them only if you gain influence in return. You can still be good, but don't be so good that they take you for granted. Because here's what happens. When people see you as endlessly nice, they stop respecting your boundaries. They push, they take, they assume you'll always say yes, until they don't need you anymore. And by then they've learned everything about you, and you've learned nothing about them. Respect is born from limits. And people respect what they can't fully define, what they can't manipulate, what confuses them just enough to make them cautious. Be the mystery that walks into the room without explanation. A calm voice with layers nobody can decode. A presence that doesn't reveal need or crave connection. A storm behind a still face. And here's the coldest truth Machiavelli ever gave us: when you reveal nothing, you actually own everything. He wasn't powerful because he shared secrets. He was powerful because he was the secret. His strength came not from exposure, but from enigma. His enemies didn't fear what they knew, they feared what they didn't. And that fear, that fog, was his shield. You want that kind of protection? Then stop offering information. Every fact you give away is a potential weapon. Even your strengths can be turned against you if they fall into the wrong hands. Let people underestimate you. Let them misread you. Let them whisper behind your back, unsure if they're even close to the truth. Because while they're focused on interpreting your every move, you're watching theirs. You're studying how they flinch, how they react, how they crave control. You're learning what they're hiding while they think you have nothing at all to hide. And when the time is right, you move. Not with anger, not with panic, with precision, quiet, fast, and devastating. Because you were never playing to be liked. You were playing to win. There's a dangerous pressure in today's world to be open. They tell you to share more, be authentic, be vulnerable. But that advice is often a trap dressed in concern. Because what most people want isn't connection. What they want is access. And access is the first step to control. When someone knows what makes you hurt, they know exactly how to push. When they know what you long for, they know how to bait. You think you're building connection, but what you're really doing is laying yourself out like a blueprint, and someone else is quietly sketching a plan. True power doesn't need to overshare. Real connection doesn't require you to spill your soul. That's the core of Machiavelli's warning. Opacity is not coldness, it's control. So let's go deeper. There's another rule one most people overlook because it doesn't feel aggressive. Blend in, but don't belong. Machiavelli often advised rulers to stay close to the people, but never of the people. The same is true today. If you want to observe people clearly, you need to disappear into the crowd. Dress like them, talk like them, share small common interests, be friendly, but don't gossip. Don't reveal your deeper thoughts, preferences, or loyalties. Be fog, not ice. People can see fog, but they can't hold it. You stay soft enough to be ignored, mysterious enough to be remembered. And when someone can't quite pin you down, they stop trying to trap you. Because they don't know where the walls are. They don't know if they're dealing with air or armor. Which brings us to one of Machiavelli's favorite tools, ambiguity. Most people crave clarity. They want you to tell them yes or no. Are you in or out? Are you for me or against me? But ambiguity makes people squirm. And in that discomfort, you gain control. You don't have to lie, you just stay unclear. Someone asks for your opinion on something controversial. Say that's complicated. Or reply with a question of your own. If they press you for a decision, buy time. If they push you for an answer, offer a general truth instead. Ambiguity creates psychological static. They'll try to fill in the blanks, but they'll do it with their own fears, their own paranoia. And while they're tangled in their assumptions, you move forward, untouched, uncommitted, unbound. And now we come to one of the most dangerous mistakes people make. Overcorrecting. Imagine you accidentally show too much. You react too strongly. You let your mask slip. The instinct is to fix it, explain, clarify, patch up your image. But Machiavelli would tell you, don't repair it. Reframe it. If they think they saw something real, let them question what they saw. Say something subtle. Well, sometimes even masks need to breathe. Or maybe that's what I wanted you to see. Then walk away. No explanations, no cleanup. Just leave them holding their own uncertainty. That moment of exposure becomes a weapon of confusion. They thought they saw your truth, but now they're not sure. You've turned their confidence into doubt. That crack they found, now it feels like a mirror. Were they looking at you or themselves? This is the heart of Machiavellian perseverance. You don't repair perception, you hijack it. And while you're doing that, you're observing. Because here's the next rule: study others, but don't let them study you. Become obsessed with how people behave. Watch how they react to compliments, to insults, to silence. Pay attention to what they say, but more importantly, what they don't. Be a surgeon of psychology. But never let that energy flow both ways. If someone asks you about your beliefs, deflect. Your goals, smile and change the topic. Your next move. Oh, I haven't thought that far ahead. You ask the questions, you listen, you map their interior. But when they aim the spotlight at you, you disappear into it. If they push, laugh it off. If they dig, compliment them. Be polite, be warm, but reveal nothing. You become a mirror that only reflects the other person. And while they're trying to figure out your blueprint, you've already mapped every inch of theirs. This is called one-way transparency. It's like being in a room with a two-way mirror. They think they see you, but all they're looking at is their own projection. Now here's a tactic most people avoid, but it's deadly effective. Occasionally disrupt your own pattern. Even if you've built a reputation for being calm, mysterious, unreadable. Shake it. Once in a while, do the unexpected. Go quiet for a few days. Express emotions suddenly. Act playful, then go cold. Not chaotically calculated. Why? Because even unpredictability becomes predictable if you never change it. If people get used to your silence, they'll stop fearing it. But when you break your own rhythm just slightly, you reset the game. You remind them that they don't know you. They never did. Machiavelli didn't want to be chaotic. He wanted to be unsettling strategically. So when he moved, it shocked everyone. Because it was the one move they didn't see coming. That's what made it land harder. And that's what you want. You don't just want to be unreadable. You want to remind them that you could be anything, and that's when you become truly dangerous. When you live by this law, when you protect your energy, your narrative, your psychology, you stop playing defense. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for being hard to read. You start moving like silence, like a whisper behind the noise. And that whisper, because it can't be tracked, becomes the one sound they can't ignore. Because in the age of oversharing, mystery is power. They'll come for you in subtle ways, not with a sword, but with a smile. Not with confrontation, but curiosity. They'll ask questions that sound innocent. What's your biggest dream, or what scares you the most? They'll slip little jokes into the conversation, testing how you react. They'll compliment you, but with just enough edge to see if you lean in. And the moment you open the door even a little, they'll step through it and start rearranging the furniture of your mind. You need to understand the world is not asking for your truth. It's asking for your blueprint. It wants access. And once someone gains access to your emotional architecture, they begin to set the rules. They don't need permission to control you. They just need familiarity. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't to shut yourself off from the world. It was to reveal yourself selectively, to give just enough that people feel they know you, but never enough for them to use. There's a principle here: be familiar, but never intimate. Let them recognize your voice, your posture, your humor, but never your center. That's the mistake most people make. They confuse being liked with being known. And once someone knows you, what drives you, what haunts you, what makes you tick, they can start predicting you. And prediction is the death of power. So yes, speak casually. Joke. Be warm, but never show need. Never reveal desire that you haven't already mastered. Never let them think they can touch your inner compass. Because once they feel the map in their hands, it's only a matter of time before they try to redraw it. Let them see your surface, but never your foundation. They can admire the house, but they never get to see the beams holding it up. And while you're guarding your core, here's another tactic Machiavelli mastered: let them talk. People love the sound of their own voice. Most don't even notice when they start giving away their strategy. They're so focused on being impressive, being in control, being liked, that they forget to listen. And that's your advantage. You dominate a conversation not by speaking, but by listening long enough for them to reveal themselves completely. Let them talk in circles. Let them fill the silence. Let them feel clever. Because the more they talk, the more they assume. And the more they assume, the more they expose. In time, they'll contradict themselves. They'll reveal their fears, their insecurities, their need to be seen. And you just nod. You smile. You become their mirror. Until finally, when the timing is perfect, you speak one single sentence and it changes the entire room. That's how Machiavelli played the long game. He let others stack the firewood and then walked in with the match. But let's go deeper. One of the most overlooked weapons you have is internal containment. Self-control is not just about holding back tears or anger. It's about containing truth. Most people believe transparency means strength. But the truth. Every time you show what's really going on inside, you give away a piece of your power. Your plans, your doubts, your frustrations, even your excitement must be guarded. If someone insults you, you smile. If someone praises you, you downplay it. If someone doubts you, you nod in silence. You don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to prove anything. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Because your silence isn't emptiness. It's armor. The less they know about what moves you emotionally, the more time they waste trying to trigger you. They'll fumble in the dark, trying different buttons, growing more frustrated as nothing works. Eventually, they burn out. Cold ambiguity wears them down faster than rage ever could. You don't block. You redirect. You don't argue. You observe. And when the moment comes to act, you do it not with theatrics, but with surgical finality. Now let's sharpen this even more. Here's the brutal truth Machiavelli would whisper, give them the wrong read on purpose. Let people believe you're soft, that you're naive, that you're too emotional, too slow, too easy to manipulate. Let them build that illusion. Let them feel comfortable. And when they finally underestimate you, when they lean just a little too far forward, that's when you strike. Not with anger, not with noise, with speed, with precision, with control so quiet they won't even realize what happened until it's over. You reverse the narrative in a single motion. You go from passive to dominant, from underestimated to undeniable. This is not about deception for deception's sake. It's about control of perception. When you give someone a false map of who you are, you also decide where they walk and where they fall. But to pull this off, you need discipline. And that leads to Machiavelli's discipline of emotional economy. Every glance, every smile, every word, it's all intentional. Not fake, not theatrical, just deliberate. Most people waste energy broadcasting themselves. They share every emotion, post every thought, react to every opinion. In their rush to be visible, they bleed power. You go the other way. You keep your world compact. You don't reveal your plans. You don't tell people where you're going or how close you are to getting there. And when someone asks, what's wrong? You look at them, smile gently, and say, nothing important. That's when they realize you're not here to be solved. You're here to outlast. This is the law of Machiavellian perseverance. You don't burn hot and bright. You burn slow, silent, unstoppable. You don't perform your strength. You suggest it. You let them imagine what you're capable of, and their imagination will always be more terrifying than your reality. Because what is visible can be countered, but what is unreadable is immortal. Want to know what truly makes someone unforgettable? It's not charisma. It's not status. It's not even success. It's being unreadable. In a world that screams posts, performs, and overshares, the person who says less becomes magnetic. Not because they're hiding, but because they don't need to be known. They don't seek validation or approval or applause. They just are. Present, confident, silent. And that silence, it creates gravity. Machiavelli understood this centuries before anyone started chasing Instagram followers. He knew the most powerful presence in any room isn't the loudest voice, it's the quietest force. The one everyone leans toward. The one they can't quite figure out. The one who seems to know something they don't. That power begins with one simple tool, the unfinished sentence. You want to dominate a conversation? Don't monologue. Don't flood people with information. Say, just enough, then stop. Try this. Well, some people don't really understand what's actually going on, and then trail off. Or say, if I told you what I was really working on, it might, and then let the silence finish the thought. Why? Because the human brain hates unresolved tension. It will fill in the blanks. It will finish the sentence for you, and suddenly you're not speaking, you're programming their thoughts. Their imagination is now completing your message, and that gives you more influence than any well-crafted speech ever could. Machiavelli used silence as a scalpel. Not to cut people down, but to control the rhythm of a room. The pause, the breath, the lack of conclusion. It forces others to lean in, to guess, to overthink. And in that guessing, they reveal themselves. Meanwhile, you've already read them. This is what it means to flip the frame. You're no longer trying to be understood. They are. Let's move to your next weapon, calm. Not fake calm, not forced zen. Real calm. Calm that doesn't blink when the heat turns up. Calm that's anchored. When people get emotional, they expect others to rise with them. So when someone attacks you verbally, socially, emotionally, and you blink once, smile slowly, and say nothing, they lose power. Their performance falls flat. Their fire has nothing to burn. Imagine this: someone calls you out in front of others. They expect you to fight back, maybe defend yourself, maybe spiral. But instead, you pause. You look at them. Maybe you ask a question: is that really how you see it? Or maybe you say nothing. Just one calm glance. That stillness shatters their performance. Because deep calm says, I'm not reacting because I've already won. It unnerves people. It throws them off their rhythm. It creates doubt in their mind, not yours. You've become the quiet storm, the one that doesn't announce itself, but always arrives when it matters. Machiavelli didn't want to be known for loud victories. He wanted to be feared for silent control. And he knew that if you're always calm, always unreadable, always one step off the pattern, you don't just survive conflict, you command it. Now let's take this further, because most people won't dare go this cold. Machiavelli did. Here's the next principle: create the illusion of closeness. Let people think they're getting to know you. Give them your surface, your jokes, your favorite music, your routines. Let them feel like they've seen the real you. But all they've seen is your shell, not your engine. They might know your favorite coffee order. They might know how you react to small talk. They might even feel emotionally close to you. But they never touch your core. Never your fears. Never your long-term strategy. Never your inner compass. You give them the cardboard cutout and they think it's the sculpture. Why does this matter? Because when people think they know you, they lower their guard. And when they try to use that false familiarity to manipulate you, they find nothing. No string to pull. No handle to grip. No pressure point to press. You're physically present, but strategically impenetrable. They might smile at you in public. They might even believe you're on their side. But inside, you're moving silently in your own direction, building, planning, watching. And that leads to one of Machiavelli's most chilling laws of dominance. Never reveal your timeline. Ambition is only dangerous when it's invisible. If people know your goal, they can block it. If they know how close you are, they can interfere. If they know your milestones, they can undermine them. So don't share your progress. Don't announce your next project. Don't explain how far along you are in your transformation. Let them think you're idle while you're actually inevitable. While they're busy talking, you're stacking your pieces. While they believe you're still learning, you're already in position. And when the results hit, when the plan unfolds, everyone thinks it happened out of nowhere. But it didn't. It came from silence, from stealth, from control. That's not mystery. That's strategic domination. And just when they think they've got you figured out, break the pattern. Let someone believe they've cracked your code. Let them think, oh, I know how she reacts. Or he always does this. And right when they relax into that assumption, reverse the script. Compliment someone you usually ignore. Show warmth where you were once cold. Or go distant when you were just engaged. This isn't random. It's calculated deviation. Because the moment someone thinks they can map you, they stop being careful. They start taking liberties. They start dropping their mask. And that's the window. That's when you become unpredictable again. And unpredictability is what makes people afraid to touch you. Machiavelli understood this deeply. People don't betray what they don't understand. They fear it. And that fear, that's your protection. Because here's the final truth Machiavelli would leave you with in this part of the law. Power that can't be seen, can't be attacked. If they don't know what drives you, what you want, or where you're going, then there's nothing to shoot at. They can't sabotage your plans if they don't know you have any. They can't twist your truth if they've never heard it. They can't drag your name if they don't really know who you are. You become like smoke in a locked room, always there, but impossible to hold. And when the time comes, when they think they've boxed you in, when they're convinced you're harmless, when they've let their guard down completely, that's when you strike. Not with fireworks, not with a spectacle, just one quiet final move. Clean, precise, effective. Because that's what unreadable power does. It waits, it endures, And then when the moment is right, it ends the game. This is what Machiavelli meant by perseverance. You didn't just survive by keeping quiet. You didn't just play along by saying less. You won by being unknowable. That's the final evolution, not just being unreadable, but being ungraspable. A presence that hovers outside their understanding, close enough to see, never close enough to touch. And it's terrifying. Because people can't destroy what they can't define. You're not standing above them anymore. You're moving around them. You don't resist their games. You make them forget you're even playing. While they're caught up in status wars, social metrics, and emotional outbursts, you've already left the arena. You're operating in another space entirely. That's why when you move, no one sees it coming. Because to them, you were never a threat. You were the quiet one, the nice one, the calm one. And then, just like that, you're the one with all the power. Not because you were aggressive, not because you outperformed them, but because you were disciplined and invisible. So let's review the essence of this final chapter of Machiavellian power. You let them talk and you listened. You let them assume and you watched. You let them feel close but gave them nothing real. You let them plan against you while you mapped their weaknesses. And then you moved not to impress them, not to prove anything, but to finish the game. Let's talk about the hardest part of this law, to live out resisting the urge to be understood. Most people crave being known. They want their story told, their struggles, seen, their heart validated. And there's nothing wrong with that unless you're trying to win in a world full of hidden agendas and silent competitors. Because once you let that craving dictate your behavior, you start over-explaining. You start defending your character. You start justifying your decisions to people who were never listening to understand, they were listening to classify. So you starve them of certainty. You don't lie. You just say less. You don't explain yourself. You let the moment pass. You don't argue to be right. You let them think what they want because their assumptions are your camouflage. This is the Machiavellian principle of opacity by choice. You become unreadable not by accident, but by design. And it bleeds into every aspect of your life. Someone asks your opinion on a hot topic. You say, "That's an interesting situation." Someone pushes for details about your future plans. You smile and say, "We'll see how things unfold." Someone presses about a past decision. You respond, "That was a different time. I learned a lot." Always answer, never reveal. Here's something most people don't understand. Mystery isn't about withholding everything. It's about releasing the right fragments at the right time. You don't lock everything in a vault. You simply control the flow. You give people enough to stay curious, but never enough to feel in control. Because if they think they've figured you out, you're already losing. The second someone thinks they have a clear map of your mind, they begin to relax. They start forming strategies. They believe they can predict your behavior, anticipate your next move. And the moment they settle into that confidence, that's when you make your shift. Say something unexpected. Change a small habit. React in a way that doesn't fit their theory. Not because you're erratic, but because you're alive, unmapped, unrehearsed, always one layer deeper than their assumptions. Machiavelli believed that fluidity breeds power, that the most dangerous opponent is the one you can't prepare for. And you become that opponent not by being loud, but by being unreadable in ways they never thought to study. Now here's the ultimate Machiavellian paradox. The less people know about your boundaries, the more cautious they become around you. It sounds backward, right? But think about it. When people know what makes you angry, they know how far they can push. When they know what you'll tolerate, they know how to dance around it. When they know your limits, they start testing them. But when they don't, they hesitate, they wonder, they hold back. Because they don't know what the consequences are. And people fear uncertainty more than punishment. It keeps them respectful, or better yet, distant. And that distance, that space between their assumptions and your truth, that's where your power lives. Because the less you give away, the more they want. But they never get close. Not because you're cold, but because you're deliberate. Not because you're hiding, but because you're discerning. Not because you fear being known, but because you've learned that real influence doesn't come from exposure, it comes from elevation. And you can't rise above the noise if you're always feeding it. So here's your choice. You can be open and accessible, easy to know, easy to predict, easy to use. Or you can be precise, layered, unreadable. Not a puzzle to be solved, but a presence to be respected. Because in the end, the most powerful person in any room is the one who doesn't need to be understood. They only need to endure.